Yeah. And then how about the passion? Who liked when we talked and introduced ourselves that way? Great. Great. Now, are you guys more extroverted than introverted? I'm wondering if there's a correlation here. No. You seem an extrovert. You think you're an introvert? Okay. Introvert?
Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
Okay, that's good. It's always good.
In the middle.
Really?
Yeah, I have to talk to a lot of people.
So what was the thing that bugged you? Did either one of these bug you, first of all? Because one of them did me.
The facts felt like it was a way too long of a time. Like I couldn't come
Yes.
up with enough stuff.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And why do you think that was?
Found it boring.
Susan feels boring, right? And it's no color commentation. It's like, what's the use of this? Now think about it when you go into a room and you meet someone and you start to talk, right? How do we normally, women tend to do something called show up and throw up. And we tell everything about ourselves, and it's in a good way, right? But it's different than men kind of approach things. And that's kind of what we're going to be talking about. Now the point with this is I think women in general, we want to get better at being succinct. Because if you show up at a meeting and you have a strong masculine alpha male, he's going to want, why are you here? What do you want? And what am I supposed to do next? Those are the three things. If you come in and try to engage, try to tell him how you even got to this process, where this is coming from, he's going to go, get to the bottom line, you have lost me. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. It doesn't mean either one of these is right or wrong. It is really around, can you make both of these comfortable for you? That's really what we're trying to do, okay? So, when you think of networking, what are the words that come to mind? Shy. Torture. Learning. Okay, so saying wrong things, right? Stupid and wrong things, right? Pressure. And what's the pressure coming from?
Let's do it right.
Do it right.
People to make right impression on them.
Right impression, right. So, if you were listening about this and we were talking about it, and it was a trip you were going to go on, like a cruise, would you want to go on it? No, right? So this is all about understanding that the way we approach networking and our attitude has as much to do with the outcome, right? You know, when you were in school, what were the classes you got the best grades in? You liked. So if you can try to think about it, and this is crazy, but try to think about it about what you like. This is gonna be fun, and it's the whole putting a smile on your face before you feel the smile, right? So that's really what we're gonna try to get after. But if we look at this, as I'm talking about all of the data behind how men and women really approach networking differently, I'm going to do it in generalities. All men do this, all women do that. Is it really all men? Is it really all women? I have always heard never use the word never. Like to my spouse, we'd never go out on a date. I've already put him on the defensive. The first thing he says to me, we did on January the 3rd, we went on a date. Yeah, that was 6 weeks ago, right? And so you're already putting yourself. So I'm feeling the same way. So please, if you could take most of the data with these are generalizations that there are women that do some of these things just like there are men that do them. But if we can understand how the majority of men approach these things, we're going to get smarter and be more effective. And that's what we're here to get, okay? So, if you think about brain differences, I have to first tell you a joke about how men and women approach this. So, a woman goes into the fitting room, and she gets her size, and she puts it on. It's too tight. And she goes, I gotta get to the gym. I haven't worked out in forever. I've gotta eat better, right? A man goes into the fitting room, gets his size of jeans, a 36. He puts them on, they're tight, and he goes, what the hell is wrong with these jeans? It is exactly how we approach differently, how women tend to approach things and how men tend to approach them. And a lot of this is based in how our brains are wired. And the whole point of this, if you can understand how the brains are wired differently, then you don't try to get blood out of a turnip anymore. It's not ever going to have blood out of a turnip. It's just not how they're built, right? Now, some men with all women in their family, they can really start to acquire some of the feminine energies, right? And can understand what it's like, and they actually adapt. I did that with engineering. I got to the point when I worked with engineers, my joke is, you never make any sudden movements, you don't look people in the eye too long. It's just not what it was so funny, I have to tell you this. Somebody had told me when I went into sales, in the second part of my career, it was like somebody sprayed something on me and I was getting hit on. And I just didn't have to deal with it in engineering. And people said, but you've been in this male-dominated industry for 20 years. And I said, oh, engineers can't look you in the eye, much less. Right? And have you heard the joke about the extroverted engineer? They look at your shoes instead of their own. It's just how we're built, right? The big point here is, if we can understand that, and we're going to talk about women specifically, women have all about the verbal center, and men are about the spatial center. So actually men can see, when you're driving down the road, they can see things better than just because of how their brain is built. They can see the car coming in faster than we can because their spatial connections in their brain are more robust. There's more blood flow. It is amazing. Whereas when we come into a situation, we have all of this chemical, these higher chemicals in our brain, like oxytocin, serotonin, prolactin, that actually create more emotional. It's like if you look at the two brains, women are a spaghetti, there's a lot of stuff going on. Men are boxes, and they can compartmentalize things. So I'm at work, this is how I am. I'm at home, this is how I am. They can do that. Us, we're sitting there at work thinking, what are we having for dinner again? Who the heck's even worried about dinner? Are we going to eat tonight? It's constant. This is how our brains work. And if we can understand that and approach it so that we understand, oh, I'm doing that. It's not that, so the best example I can give you is, I've done all these interviews for this book I'm writing about women in business. And I asked the women, what do you love working with women? What do you love about it? And what don't you? What's the three things? And the women always start with, they're catty, they hold a grudge, and I hate when they cry. And I hate it worse when I cry at work, right? I went and looked at why, is there a medical reason why women cry and men don't? And actually women have larger tear ducts, which is surprising. So who would have thought? Most of the other things on a women are smaller. Tear ducts is one of the few. The other reason is these chemicals stimulate the tear ducts. So when you get, and why women cry versus men. Men tend to cry from something that hurts their heart, like they lose a child, they have a death. It's got to be more emotionally traumatic. And we cry at that too, but women tend to cry when we're frustrated and when we're angry. So, if we understand that, and all of those things, those chemicals are going when that's going on, and that's actually activating and stimulating your tear ducts, you should be less hard on yourself. It's not if it's going to happen, it's when, and how can we manage it. So it's not wrong to cry when we get that way. It's just what can we do about it, okay? And it's funny because at the end of the class, I can share with you some ideas around, because I asked women, how do you handle this? How do you not do this? Because nobody wants to do something at work that makes them feel bad, right? So, if we look at it as, this is a big thing that's helped me. Women, their brains are hardly ever at rest. Men, their brains go into a rest mode very, very often. So the way this plays out is, have you ever been sitting there across the table from a man and he's fidgeting, or he's doing this, or he's, or they're throwing crap across the table, right? I mean, seriously. And all I could think before was, damn, they're rude. What is wrong with these people, right? Especially if you're the woman and you're running the meeting, right? But even the meeting leader, I was thinking it was rude. Men do that subconsciously, unconsciously, to keep their brains engaged. So if you understand this, then it's not wrong for them to do it. You go, oh, isn't he sweet? He's trying to stay attentive. And it's totally different, right? So it's just a different way to look at it. So what does it even matter, this brain difference and stuff? Because it's the basis of conscious and unconscious bias. And unconscious bias is something that I am passionate about uncovering and educating people about. Because it's the reason we make a lot of our decisions, and it's a reason a lot of things happen to each of us. Like, I asked a CEO, one of the CEOs I interviewed for the book, a male, asked him, do you approach women interviewing at your company any different? He said, Wendy, I hate to admit this, and I didn't even realize it till now, but last week I had a man and a woman come in, they were each 28, for the same job. And I couldn't help but think, when's this woman going to get married, have a baby, and I've trained her for $25,000, and I'm going to lose her. I couldn't help it. Now, would I, Wendy, actually not hire her? I hope not. But it comes into my mind. So often, there's stuff that don't even come into people's mind. So, I was interviewing last year before I decided to take this big leap and build this business. And I went in, had loved the company. It was for a VP of Biz Dev of a tech company, an IT company here. And I walk in, and I loved the company, and I said, oh, the CEO interview's the last thing. I think this is where I should be. Sat down with him, 30 minutes into the interview, he was ADD as hell. I'm telling you, the man was all over the place. And, it was everything I think I'm pretty quick, but it was everything I could do to kind of keep up with him. And as he went to places going, Neely's over there, yeah. And so I was, trying to be engaged, as you would. And he ends up, which I have to tell you, most of the CEO men are ADD and too smart for them during good, right? And so I ended up, 30 minutes in, he stopped me and said, Wendy, I got to tell you, I wasn't quite sure what I was getting when you came in here. And you started talking, that's what he said. He said, but you are so intelligent and articulate. And you have such fabulous ideas about where we should go. And I swear to God, I thought somebody said, you throw pretty good for a girl. I am telling you. And I'm seeing some smiles, so I think we've all gone through this. But the first thing I thought in my head is, if this is what's coming out of his mouth, what's the ugly, darker crap that's in his head that's not coming out? The unconscious stuff, right? And I have been as guilty of this. Because this leads to loads of frustration and misunderstandings. This actually impacts how effective we're being. So I was lucky enough to meet Carly Fiorino. When I was at AT&T, we put on a conference, and she was lucid. And she was one of our speakers. I have never in my life seen a woman more the man in woman's body. She was so, she just had no soft, feminine energy at all. I mean, zero. And I was so disappointed, and I was actually pissed. And I didn't even realize it, why. But all I could think was, she's creating. And because she's been successful, and gotten to the top. She's making all the men think this is that we just have to be men to get to this place. What I realized was I was actually the pot calling the kettle black and doing this bad unconscious bias, and I was creating, oh, if you're a woman, you need to act this way. And that's not true. There's women that have strong, masculine, very, very direct, powerful, you know exactly where you stand, and that's okay. There are also women that are softer, have more of a feel of approachability, and I was doing the same thing by judging her based on how she was. So, I want to read tell you the situation. You need a COO badly at your company. The last one actually created extra work for you. You're not willing to make another mistake. I'm a recruiter and I found a candidate for you to consider. Let me tell you a little bit about Chris Martin. This candidate started out in the military doing technical ops. They moved to the business world 10 years into their career, and they have held some great roles in operations, managing P&L for mid-sized projects of $2 million to $10 million at 3 different companies, with the last role being that of a COO. We want you to consider them for the COO position. Now, be honest with yourself. Which picture did you think in your head when I was describing this person? Because I gotta tell you, I do this all the time, and they flip resumes and redact the names a lot of times to try this out, right, in studies. So this is again where unconscious bias impacts decisions we make. Men hire men. Women don't always hire women. That's the problem. So, and it's just the situation, and it's all about us. It's fabulous that you're even listening to this, right? It's all about becoming aware of that and being more effective. So, unconscious bias shows up a couple different ways. It's too hard to work with a black Muslim. That's going to be tough here. We had this at Magpie, where we actually had a Mormon. And the CEO was a strong lesbian advocate kind of woman who actually did the Colorado gay marriage legal stuff. It was great. Her name is Margaret Bird. She's fabulous. And so I went to her and I said, hey, we got the sales guy I'm hiring. It's a Mormon. Do you think, in fact, she came to me and said, do you think we should let him know that I'm gay in case he has, because they have some pretty strict ideas about roles of women, right? Traditionally. Who knows what this guy was? But he was very upfront about being Mormon. And she said, should we find a way to tell him? And I said, well, Lord have mercy, how am I going to do that? How do you tell somebody? I just need you to know my CEO's gay. I mean, how do you even say that in a good way, right? And so I jokingly said to her, because she and I were, you can tell when you joke with people, right? I said, well, if you just acted more gay, we wouldn't have to worry about this. A diverse group is harder to manage. It's easier when we're all looking at the same way, right? And this is things people say, but it's also things they think and don't say. I saw 2 doctors, a woman, the whole audience called the woman Jane and called the man doctor. That's not right, right? She's just going to leave and have babies. We just talked about that, right? So, science faculty were given identical resumes, and all they did was flip the names so you could tell the surnames. It was a John and a Carol. And they showed that that the applicants with the male names got hired more, right? So this is an issue, right? I talked and interviewed the city manager of one of the biggest cities, and she said she was fabulous, kick-ass. I loved her. She was all spunky dressed and all, she was just being her authentic self, right? Been in the job 7 years. 13% of the country's city managers are women. That statistic has not changed in 30 years, except by 0.1%. She said, Someone told me,